Kelly Angood is the UK manager of tech, design and hardware for Indiegogo, the world's largest crowdfunding platform. As a maker herself, she understands the product development process and is passionate about revolutionising the way products are made by giving creators and makers access to the capital and a way to bring their exciting projects to the real world. So welcome, Kelly.
Hi guys. So what I just wanted to sort of do is introduce you guys to Indiegogo, introduce you guys to top tips for how you might run your crowdfunding campaign. Go through a couple of different examples. So has anyone used Indiegogo before? Just start with, no? Yeah, you guys have. I know, that's cool. Has anyone used any crowdfunding? So whether that's personal, so you've maybe done a run and got some money, or maybe you've contributed to a campaign. Some of you. Okay, obviously you're all interested, so that's why you're here, so that's a good start. Okay, so this is how we define crowdfunding, which is kind of just already been said, but just to do it again, it's the collective effort of individuals who network and pool their money, usually by the internet, not always, to support the efforts initially to promote other people or organisations. So crowdfunding isn't a new idea at all. As most of you will know, this is the Statue of Liberty. It was a gift from the French to the United States. But what they actually didn't provide was anything to put it on. So in 1885, Joseph Pulitzer, who at the time ran the New York World, the biggest newspaper in New York, used his medium, the newspaper, to ask everyone in New York to donate as little or as much as they can to make this base for the Statue of Liberty. And overall they managed to raise $250,000 from over 125,000 New Yorkers. And if that was a campaign on Indiegogo today, it would be like a multi-million dollar campaign. So it's not new, and it's definitely not begging, even if someone tells you it is. You know, you've got a cause, you're telling them why you need the money, people will only contribute to you if they believe in what you're doing. Just a little bit about Indiegogo as a platform. We were actually founded before crowdfunding was even a term. We were founded in 2008, so we have 3 founders. And the main reason why we came to life is because the female founder, Danae, she saw her parents struggling in a small business. They were completely locked out of traditional finance. They were just bootstrapping the whole time. They couldn't grow. There was really nothing they could do, and they were just in this cycle of having to, put whatever they made back into the business without making any profit. And she thought this was wholly unfair. So she went to university to learn about finance, and then she ended up working in JP Morgan, where she realised actually finance was more broken than she originally thought. And she realised that the problem with traditional finance is actually gatekeepers, so it's these people saying no. So for a lot of people that might be traditional investors. For you guys, it's people that are saying, yes or no to funding, or, institutions. But, it's someone else who has got the right to say yes or no. Whereas with crowdfunding, we want to open up the gates and say, if you've got an idea, try it out. Who are we to say that it's a good or bad idea? The crowd will decide. So our mission from day one has been to empower people to fund what matters to them. So it doesn't matter whether you're trying to fund a piece of research, whether you've got a product that you're trying to launch, whether you want to send your kid's lollipop lady on holiday. As long as you believe in it, you can try and fund it on Indiegogo. We don't have an application process. If you want to try and fund something tomorrow, you can go ahead and do it. So why might you use Indiegogo? There's lots and lots of platforms out there. I know we've got Just Giving in the room too. There's lots of great ones, but actually there's over 900 different crowdfunding platforms in the world. It's kind of insane. There's actually basically around about 100 in the UK alone. So, but why Indiegogo? We've got a huge cause side of our business. We've got a huge sort of product and tech side, and often they work together. And we've had some really amazing projects, which I'll talk through in a little while. But first of all, we are super global. So we're headquartered in San Francisco, but actually we've had over 200,000 campaigns from over 224 different countries and territories. We've been global from day one. Generally, we tell people to expect contributions from around about 70 different countries for their campaign. We're in 5 different currencies, so if you want to accept contributions in dollars, you can do. If you want to accept contributions in euros, US dollars, Aussie dollars, or sterling, you can do either of those in Indiegogo. You just have to make that decision before you launch your campaign. You actually can translate your campaign into 4 different languages, which helps it to become even more global than normal. We're working on more, but at the minute we're English. I always get this wrong, so hopefully I remember properly. English, German, French and Italian. And we've also got people here in the UK, in Israel, Canada, and big offices in LA, New York and San Francisco. Secondly, as to my point earlier about gatekeepers, we are super open. So whether you've got a campaign that's entrepreneurial, creative or cause related, anything goes with us. If the crowd decides it's a good idea, it will happen. And that's what we believe in. As I mentioned earlier, we have no application process. You can get your project out there as soon as you want. And we're also merit-based. So we have this really cool thing called the go-go factor, which is basically an algorithm. So the more people that share the link of your campaign, the more people that contribute to your campaign, the more people who are talking about it generally, the higher your go-go factor and the more likely it is to be at the top of the Indiegogo page. So that means the more people are likely to see it. Unlike other crowdfunding platforms, like we don't make that decision. It's basically, if you've got a good campaign and lots of people are getting behind it, you could be on the front page for your entire campaign if lots and lots of people are contributing to it. Everyone's got that same opportunity. We're also super customer focused, so this is probably one of the most American things I've ever heard, but we have a team in San Francisco called the Customer Happiness Team, and yeah. And their whole job is to answer any questions you've got about your campaign. So when you're up and running, you might have a 30, 40, 50-day campaign. And if you've got a question, you generally need an answer straight away. If you're waiting on an answer for, say, 3 days, that suddenly feels like 3 weeks in that short amount of time. So we try and make sure you've got all the information you need as soon as possible. You can also send people who are asking you questions about your campaign there too. So they're a really great resource to free up some of your time. So say someone's like, how do I contribute? Can I use PayPal? Whatever, you can direct them there, and that will hopefully give you a bit more time to focus on the other parts of your campaign. We've also got loads of educational materials which you can go on to Indiegogo.com and download and see and work from. We've got worksheets, workbooks, lots of tips on crowdfunding. A big part of what we do is educating you to run the best campaign possible. And obviously, we're here on the ground as well, so if you've got any questions, we can try and help to answer them. I mean, as I said, I generally work in sort of the design and tech, but I know how to run a good campaign, and lots of those things are like transversive. We also offer flexible and fixed funding, which might be particularly interesting to you guys. So fixed funding is where you need a certain amount of money, and this can happen in cause campaigns or in product campaigns. In product campaigns, it's often that you've got a minimum order quantity or tooling costs. For you guys, it might be that you need $50,000 or £50,000 to actually complete a piece of research. But it might be that you just need some money to get some of the way, and the rest of the money might come from somewhere else, might come from a second campaign or another institution. So you might want to go for flexible funding, which allows you to take any money that is contributed to your campaign, even if it's below the goal that you set. Okay, so I'm just going to run into a few different examples. I'm not talking necessarily about any rare disease examples because I know that's coming directly after me in a minute, but I'm going to talk about some general research campaigns that have been funded with Indiegogo. But actually, crowdfunding isn't just about the money that you get from it. It's about a lot of other things. It's about the interest that you can get into your campaign. It's about awareness for your cause, and it's about building a community. So it really helps to highlight exactly what you were doing and why you're doing it. Okay, so first of all, has anyone heard of this project, Biome? No? Okay, so this is a citizen science project, which I'm sure you guys probably know about citizen science, but it's really interesting. It really, brings the world into your scientific process and really makes the crowd part of the work itself. And these guys wanted to raise £100,000, and what they wanted to do was map the human microbiome. and they managed to raise over three times that. So they wanted to create the world's largest database, and they managed to actually do that with 2,500 funders. So, but the interesting thing that they did is they not only crowdfunded the money, but they crowdsourced the samples. So this went all over the world. People sent back samples of their microbiome. So whether that was, you could do various different samples, send it back, and then you could see how you compared directly to other people in the sample. So it's super interactive. Not only did the crowd actually become their work, but they were able to get the money to complete it as a piece of research. And one of the really interesting things they did as well is, obviously we have a big presence in the West, but there's lots of countries that we don't have very many Indiegogo contributors from. So one of their perks was that you could actually donate some money and have a kit sent to a country where maybe it is less likely that contributors would come from, so that they had a really wide map of what the human microbiome was. Kite Patch, has anyone heard of Kite Patch? No? Okay. So this is actually a really interesting project, and Kite Patch is basically a mosquito repellent. It was actually 3 years in development before it came to Indiegogo. They were looking for $75,000. They knew they needed that to get to the next stage of what they were doing, and they managed to raise, as you can see, just over $500,000. So that's pretty good going. And so this patch basically allows you to become invisible to mosquitoes for around about 48 hours. And I didn't realise this before I came across this campaign, but apparently mosquitoes, the way they detect you is through the CO2 that you emit from breathing. And this somehow masks their CO2 receptors. So it's a much more, like traditionally the way to repel mosquitoes is to put lots of chemicals in the air, to cover yourself with like horrible stuff that you can't even pronounce the name of. And so this is an alternative which is better for people and better for the environment in general. And their main driver was actually that one child dies every minute from mosquitoes or malaria or mosquito-borne diseases. And their main aim of the product was actually to run a field test in Uganda. And obviously that huge amount of money meant that there was a lot of funders. There was actually over 11,000 people contributed to that campaign. They also operated, because they had a product, they operated this, buy one, give one model, sort of like Tom's Shoes, or lots of other people are doing it at the moment, whereby if you bought 5, they would send 5 into the clinical study, into the field study. If you bought 10, or you could just buy like 10, 20 to put directly into the study. But those types of perks really helped to convert on this campaign. And actually, in the past, I think just about a few months ago, they've actually completed their first round of field testing in Uganda, and they're still developing. These things take a long time, and they're still developing it into like a fully fledged product. Okay, a third example is the Tisch SMS Center, which is in New York. Now they actually had an FDA-approved clinical study, stem cell study approved, but they didn't have the money for it. They needed $300,000, and they managed to raise just over that. I'd definitely recommend going and watching the videos. I tried to bring the videos, but couldn't quite figure it out on the laptop. But definitely go and watch all these videos, because they are really, really good examples of how to do a crowdfunding video. So Microbiome, Kite Patch, and Tisch, all really, really amazing videos. So these guys wanted to raise funding to complete the multiple sclerosis stem cell trial. It's currently ongoing, and they just released positive preliminary results like a few months ago, and that was brought together by over 960 funders. So, are any of you actually planning to run a crowdfunding campaign at some point? Yeah, there's some nods. At some point in the future. That's cool. So I just kind of wanted to run through some of the things that you might want to do, or kind of best practices for running your campaign with Indiegogo. First of all, it's super important to have an attainable goal. So just to give you a bit of an example here, can you see that? So it's a bit, yeah, okay. So if you can see the example on the left, this example has got a goal of $150,000, and the example on the left has got a, is it 50? Yeah, I can't quite see it on here, $50,000. Like, which one of these would you be more likely to contribute to, just off the back of seeing that thing? Yeah, okay, yeah, so it's just basic human psychology that people will go for the thing that looks like it's doing the best. It's like you want to back a winning horse, people don't want to like eat in an empty restaurant. It's this whole psychology of actually wanting to back the winner. So we always recommend going for the lowest goal possible. You might think you need like £300,000 to complete a clinical trial. You might well need that, but actually you might be more successful if you ask for a smaller minimum amount and then come back and do a second campaign, or use that information that you get from that campaign to go and secure other funding. So there's lots of routes of getting to the point that you need to get at, but to be successful in crowdfunding, it's always worth going for the lowest possible goal. Unless you're doing something and there's just no other option and this is the only way, but just bear in mind that it will be tougher for you to get to that point. Okay, early momentum is super important, and this is kind of similar to this slide in a way. Some of the most successful campaigns on Indiegogo, no matter what category they're in, raise their first 30% of funding within the first few days to a week. And generally, in order to do that, your first 30% will come from your inner circle. So that might be people on your mailing list, if you're a charity, people who you've worked with, friends and family, these people who you're directly connected with. And then after that 30%, the second 30% will then come from referrals. So once they've contributed to your campaign, maybe they share it on Facebook, maybe they tell their friends about it, they help to get the word out for you. So this second layer will come from those referrals. And really only then will the external Indiegogo community come and contribute to your campaign, because people like to see that it's been validated by your own community first. Kind of to this point, when you're saying you want to contribute to the campaign on the left, you want to do that because you've seen other people are doing it and you're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. It's kind of similar to do this. So when you're actually launching a campaign yourself, you want to make sure that all those people are ready and engaged and prepared for your campaign to go live. Definitely have a compelling pitch. Now, lots of you guys probably got very personal stories to do with, your charities or research. Lots of it is, born from a personal reason. And that's a great place to start when you're doing a crowdfunding campaign. Now the video, as I said, haven't got any videos to show you, but please go and watch some because there are some really, really good ones out there, especially those examples that I just ran through before. Campaigns with a video generally raise around about 4% more as a campaign. Videos are a really great way to be able to tell your story. They're super normalised now. It's probably quite rare that you would have a campaign without one. When you're actually doing your pitch video, make sure you're telling people why you're doing it, how you're going to do it, and actually what you're doing. But also, even though you probably feel like you're going to have to get a lot of information together, definitely try and keep it as short as possible. We kind of recommend 3 minutes maximum. Some are less, some are more, but people's attention spans are kind of short these days, especially online. So 3 is about right. Also have a super strong call to action, like why should they contribute to your campaign? Like what is the main driver for them to contribute? You have to tell them to go and do it, why they should do it, share your personal story, get people involved, but also be very thankful that people have done it. Make sure you show plenty of gratitude, make sure that people understand the difference that them contributing to your campaign is going to make to you and your piece of research. This also goes for the pitch text. So when you go into your campaign, you have your video, and then underneath you have all the descriptors of what you're doing. So you have your photographs, maybe you have some infographics, some easy to digest statistics. You might know a lot about what you're doing, but when people are coming to their campaign, they probably just want to really know the main key facts and the key messaging. These are just a couple of examples from the Tish campaign. So, there's lots of photography in there showing people doing real life work in labs. And, stem cell research is pretty complicated. So they did like a ton of sort of infographics, a lot of illustrations to explain exactly what they were going to be doing as part of the work, which really helps you to get involved. It's also a really great idea to do maybe some infographics on your budget, pie charts, this kind of thing, so people know and can trust that you've really thought about what you're researching for. People know what you're going to do with the money, you've thought about it, you're very serious about it. Also, social proof, people like to know that you are going to do what you said you're going to do, that people can see exactly. Sorry, I've been a bit ill this week, keep coughing, so I'm just going to cough in the thing. People like to see exactly what you've been doing and why people are getting involved. Okay, so perks. Now some campaigns, especially cause-based, don't necessarily have any perks, but we always recommend to try and have something. You may think, I'm doing a piece of research, what can I possibly give? I haven't got a product, I don't want to waste my time making little things that's going to take time away from actual doing real work. But there's other things you can do too. So the key drivers for people that contribute to a cause campaign are generally passion, pride and participation. So maybe you can acknowledge them in your work. If it's going to end up being a paper, maybe they get an acknowledgement in the front. Some people really like that, like feeling like they're actually part of what they're doing. You can also offer digital products. So maybe you can actually go through the research and invite them to like a webinar, or there's some kind of download they can have. They can download the research paper for free. Maybe they can just get involved somehow. You could even have like a one-to-one Skype with the person that was conducting some of the research or yourself. Also tangible products. Some people do like t-shirts, like branded items, get it out there. If you're talking about something like kites, you can obviously give away your thing, which is a really big driver and contribution if you've got a physical thing. But that's really up to you and up to whether you feel like it's the right thing for your campaign. And also experiences. Maybe you can invite people along. You could set up a day like today where people are talking about the research, where people are actually getting involved. Maybe they're coming to visit you working. Maybe they can take part in the trial. Maybe actually you're offering that up as well. And a great example of an experience is back to Biome. So you're actually physically taking part in their work. You are part of their work. And definitely do some proactive outreach. I'm sure this is probably nothing new, but it's super important to get your message out there as widely as possible. Even if you're talking to a group of people which is extremely niche, proactive outreach is really, really important. So, maybe you can host a committee, definitely try and get your email list together. Maybe you're talking to partner charities, partner agencies, like anyone across the world. As I said, at Indiegogo, we're totally global. So when you are funding for something like a rare disease, you're looking for people all over the world. This is obviously nothing new to you. There's only a few people in each place with the disease that you are looking to solve. So actually it's best to get everyone who's involved, or anyone who might be interested involved from the very start. Are there any influencers? Is there anyone that blogs about what you're doing? Is there any sort of social hook that you could put in a press release? Maybe it's someone, a blogger, a journalist, whatever, whoever's influential in your field. Maybe it's even another researcher who would go on and talk about your research. Also like general press and social media is super important. Big press can completely change a campaign, especially if you've got a personal compelling story to go alongside it. And social media, don't forget social media. It's kind of important, definitely, especially in terms of sharing your campaign. I think that's all for me. That was a real brief overview of crowdfunding generally, but I know you're going to go into more detail, so I wanted to give you a brief one. Thanks.